Hello, welcome to On the Brink. My name is Dean, and today we'll be looking at Walt Disney's first animated feature film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I'll be reacting to some of Walt's own words, as shown on the Blu-ray disc, and the bonus feature in Walt's words, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Here are Walt Disney's words. I made a trip to Europe in 1935. My brother and I and our wives. I had done a little story research on different fairy tales I might do, and Snow White was one of them. I remembered as a kid I saw Margaret Clark in Kansas City one time when I was a newsboy. They had a big showing with all the newsboys, and I went and saw Snow White. It's probably one of my first big feature pictures I'd ever seen. When I came back from Europe, I said, we're going to make a feature. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I just thought it was the perfect story. I started out with a very small unit right next to my office, and I handled it myself, and I picked certain boys that I went on to sign with to work with me on the story. Then, as I got the storyline set up, then I began to add units. And I finally ended up with every unit in my studio on it. We started sometime in late 35, and we had it in theaters December 37. Our artists at that time were not really ready. We needed another 2 or 3 years to do what we wanted to do with Snow White. I felt like if I was going to get anywhere, I had to train my own people. The hardest job was to get the guys to quit fooling around with the individual drawings and to think of the group of drawings in an action. 50% of my time was spent in the sweat box, going over every scene with every animator. The other half of my time was spent on the story. We had to find a way to do it. We had to analyze action. There were no books. There was nobody I could bring in to teach it. We were self-taught. In Snow White, we had to have this believable character. I had to have a model that could pick up the ideas we wanted for the gestures and the movements and all of that. And then I photographed her and let that be a guide for the artists. You can't pull a tear out of anybody. You can't pull a tear out of anybody with a clown run. So I went for drama in Snow White. And we worked like the dickens to get that over. Without that heart, I don't think anything would laugh. In other words, with every laugh, there must be a tear somewhere. And I believe in that. There was all the rumors about Disney's folly. We had a big premiere, the Carthay Circle Theater, big, grand Hollywood premiere. All of Hollywood brass turned out for a cartoon. And I went way back to when I first came out here. And I went to the first premiere I'd ever seen in my life. All these Hollywood celebrities coming in, and I just had a funny feeling there. I just said, maybe someday they'll be going to a premiere of a cartoon. In December, when we released Snow White, we had a heck of a time getting enough money to finish. 6 months later, we were sitting with all of our debts paid off and at least a couple $1 million in the bank. With the profits of Snow White, I built the studio. A year after that, we were back owing the bank $4.5 million. Snow White started a whole new era. We were then in big business. Snow White has been out 3 times, I think, and it'll come out many times again. I've got quite a few pictures like that I think are timeless. Hollywood has never been able to figure us out. It's funny. We do pictures, and they look at them, and they say, well, you know, in a kind of disparaging way, This is wonderful for the kids. And I say, well, what's wrong with anything that's wonderful for the kids? I think this is a really neat way to look at Snow White. It's a brief look through various interviews with Walt Disney on the deep love and deep motivation he really had to bring this wonderful story to life, and especially in a revolutionary way of being the first feature animated cartoon. A really, really captivating story that had never been told in this way before. One that was a fairy tale has sort of become something beyond that. It's very daring and bold of the Disney studio to do something of this caliber, especially when you look at some of the shorts that they were releasing throughout the 30s, and the way that they had slowly progressed from the simple Mickey Mouse and some of the early silly symphonies like the Skeleton Dance, all the way to 1937 with Snow White. It's really quite incredible to think about, and it, like Walt was laughing at, baffles me that people they sort of shove it to the side and just say, oh, it's for the kids and, the little girls who love the Disney princesses, whatever. Snow White is art. Snow White is a piece of living history and art, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, even a little rouge on Snow White's cheeks, making this picture come to be, all thanks to the wonderful animators and technicians and ink and painters, story men, all that were involved with Snow White are to be thanked and appreciated for all that was to come. Snow White really built the studio and gave them quite a bit of success and motivation to keep moving forward, which is kind of cliche to say, but it is really true. It's historically true. And I'm very grateful that Walt Disney did what he did and had this vision. If you'd like to hear some more tidbits about Snow White and many of the other Walt Disney pictures that I love, and so do you, keep tuning into On the Brink, and I'll have some more film history for you to enjoy. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.